So many YouTubers are pumping Palantir stock to some absurd price targets, to some absurd valuations like $1 trillion market cap, and it is getting out of hand. We need to talk about it. This is something I see time and time again in my comment section. Viewers encouraging me to buy into Palantir stock, why it's the next, 10x, 100x stock, why it should be worth X amount in the future, and a lot of times preceded with some rocket emojis and moon emojis. That's typically a sign for me to stay far, far away from a stock. When everyone wants to get into a company that's driven a ton by hype, that is typically when I'm not interested. I have to wait for things to die out. I have to wait for people to start questioning their investments, wait for people to say, this is a dud company, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, and they start selling their shares. That's probably when I'll start considering. Now, I know some of you are going to bring up Tesla. You're going to say, well, you're invested in Tesla. That's a hype stock. Yes, it is today. However, Tesla is a company that I bought a long time ago when that company was trading, $40, $50 per share, and it was not a stock that people wanted to own. Trust me, people were bearish on that. They did not want anything to do with Tesla. That's when I was buying, and then once things got super hype, I just watched my position increase substantially. Now, I may do the same thing with Palantir. I'm not ruling out Palantir as an investment. However, I still see way too much excitement with this stock today at valuations I just can't justify. And it's funny that I bring up Tesla because, with Palantir reporting their earnings tomorrow, I see a lot of people saying, you better get in ASAP because this stock is going to the moon. It is the next Tesla, you gotta buy in. And hey, maybe tomorrow the stock gaps up and makes a massive run higher. That's possible. However, what's also likely is that this thing gaps down and starts moving significantly lower because trust me, Palantir today is not a cheap valuation. And we all know that in this market, investors are looking for value plays, cheap stocks, undervalued companies. Palantir is none of that. Now, I'm gonna give a fair warning. I know this video is gonna draw out a lot of emotional comments. It's gonna get a lot of people upset because I'm not on board with their Palantir story. But, I would encourage you to listen through to this whole video, see my perspective, see where I'm coming from, and leave a comment down below after that. If you're gonna comment and not bother to actually listen to this perspective, great. Wish you all the best. So let's start with the $1 trillion market cap argument, right? I think a lot of people fail to understand what it means for a company to be a $1 trillion company. I see so many comments going around saying, oh, Palantir is so cheap, it's under $20 per share. This stock should be worth like Amazon, like $3,000 per share, $100, $200, $500 per share. Ridiculous numbers being thrown out there without understanding what it actually means to have this share price. Here at under $20 per share, this is still a huge company. This is not like a penny stock or something like that, although the share price might reflect it. There's some simple math we can do to understand what the valuation is for the company. Share price alone is irrelevant. What you need to focus on is market cap, and Palantir has a sizable market cap. So doing some simple math, Palantir roughly has 1.8 billion shares outstanding. Today's share price is like, $18.50, somewhere around there. So if you multiply these two numbers together, you get a market cap of roughly $35 billion. That is the value of the company. That is the valuation. $18 per share is irrelevant. When you're talking about a company's worth, come to me with the market cap. Now, for this company to go to $1 trillion market cap, it needs to go from $35 billion today to $1 trillion at some point in the future. How long that takes, who knows? That's anyone's guess, but that's kind of the path it needs to go through. Doing some simple math again, this would mean it needs to 28x from today's valuation. This stock needs to go 28 times higher for it to be a $1 trillion company. And this is where things start to get a little wacky, because in my opinion, for a company to be a $1 trillion giant, it needs to have global reach and it needs to have mass adoption. Now, some will argue because of their technology, this company is, it has that massive reach, it has that potential, and maybe they do. However, the part that I struggle with is that there's a lot behind the scenes. About half the business comes from government. Of course, government stuff is going to be top secretive. You're not really going to see full insights as to what they're actually doing, how they're doing it, what they plan to work on, all this stuff, because it's top secret. So you're essentially betting blindly on that part of the business, and you're just hoping that the commercial part, which is a bit more visible, is something that, first off, you understand, which I don't think a lot of investors do. And second off, it's going to be something that's going to be extremely huge in the future with no competition. Will it be huge in the future? I think it will, but will there be competition? Absolutely, I believe there will be. Now, the other thing is, if you look at what Palantir pulled in last year, they pulled in $1 billion in revenue. This year they expect to pull in 1.5 billion, and next year it's supposed to go to 2 billion. So it's good growth. But then if you take a step back and you're like, this company's been operating for 18 years, how is it only at a $1.5 billion run rate today? How is it only producing that little revenue when it's been operating for almost 2 decades? Sure, their technology is amazing and they have to take time to build it up, so give them a decade. So you're telling me in 1 decade, this business who has the best technology out there to catch whoever out there has pulled in $1 billion per year? I don't know. I find it personally hard to buy that story. I'm sure some of you guys are on board with me as well, but a lot of you disagree with me, and that's fine. Question though you have to ask yourself is, will you ever see a company with a $1 trillion market cap pulling in single-digit billion-dollar revenues? You know, 2, 4, 5, 6, $7 billion in revenue and a $1 trillion market cap? I don't think so. If we see a market like that, it's time to step far, far away. Now, I want to put something into perspective here because you may not understand where I'm coming from, and I want to visualize this. These are some of the top companies in the world, $1 trillion companies, and this is the amount of revenue they pull in. Apple is expected to pull in $354 billion in revenue. Amazon, the great Amazon, expected to pull in $490 billion in revenue. Microsoft expected to pull in $166 billion in revenue. And Google, Alphabet here, is expected to pull in $237 billion in revenue. So do you notice anything with these trillion-dollar companies? The answer should be yes, and you should have noticed 2 things. First, the obvious, these companies all pull in hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue every single year. And that helps them justify their $1 trillion market cap. Secondly, all of these companies have a major component to their business which Palantir lacks. They all have 2 core parts of their business: commercial and consumer. The consumer part is what Palantir does not have, and I don't think they ever will have in the future because it's not really, a product or a service that an average consumer can make use of. So that is a big reason why I fail to see how people can justify a $1 trillion market cap in this company. If you look at some of the largest pure enterprise players in the world, I can think of Salesforce, that's a big one. They are at a $200 billion market cap. A far, far cry from $1 trillion, guys. And Salesforce is another business that helps tons of companies. They go out there, they're global, they're able to provide a ton of value, they have high gross margins like Palantir, so they should justify a higher valuation as well, but they don't. They are, I believe, undervalued today, but it's at a $200 billion market cap, and I think they have the potential to run to $500 billion in a few years, but that's still a far cry from $1 trillion. So you're telling me Palantir is going to come out of nowhere here in the next few years, maybe in this decade, bypass companies like Salesforce, bypass other giants in the space, maybe ServiceNow at $100 billion, and become the largest pure play enterprise company? I have a hard time believing that anything's possible, but I just don't see that future for this business. Personally, I think the stock can probably push $100 to $200 billion, and it'll kind of cap out around there, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong on this, so don't take this as financial advice. But from what I see with their growth metrics, with what they've proven, with an optimistic future case for their growth, I don't see more than a couple $100 billion in market cap. And just for context, for Palantir to hit even $100 billion in revenue, they would have to double their revenue every single year from today for the next 7 years. But guess what? That's not the reality. They're not going to do that. In fact, taken directly from the company's slides, they project to hit $4 billion in the next 4 years. So to see this hit $100 billion in 7 years, I would put that as like a 0.01% chance of success, maybe even lower than that. Now, please don't get me wrong, okay? I think this has phenomenal growth as a standalone business. If you look at the actual core, underlying valuation of this company, it's growing well. It's doing a really good job. It's just that the market cap, the value that investors have put on this, I just can't get behind, guys. But if things do come down, I would love to have this as part of my portfolio. I have nothing against Palantir as a business. I just have an issue with it, with its valuation today. Now, a lot of people are making the argument that this is the next Tesla. You know, I gave you a good reason here, I think, in this video why this is probably not the next Tesla. They're not consumer facing at all. They're not going to get mass adoption from average people like us. So the chance of it being the next Tesla in that sense is slim to none. And you have to understand how Tesla really got to where it's at today. It's because of mass adoption. It's because the general public understood it. It's because average Joes like myself is able to go in and invest in the stock because they understand what the company is doing. But unfortunately with Palantir, it's a complex business. It's not that easy for us to grasp, and there's a lot behind the scenes, like I said, which makes it kind of a question mark investment for me. The bottom line really is that Palantir is a behind the scenes company, and because of that, I don't think it'll ever really get to the levels that people are hoping it will at some point. You know, I hope I'm wrong, but that's just how I see it. So anyways, guys, bring on the hate. I know there's going to be a ton of hate comments on this video. Keep it civilized, you know, as long as it's not attacking comments. It's fine, share your thoughts. However, if you're gonna go down there and start attacking myself or other members that don't agree with your thoughts, save it, because you're probably gonna get filtered out anyways. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.